again. I'm Joe, and today I'd like to talk to you about the latest version of Retro Reason Studio. There's a lot of new features and a lot to cover, so I hope you have some fun with it, and I know certainly I will. So let's dive in. Okay, we're going to install Retro Reason Studio, the virtual machine, and for that we will need two things. First of all, the files that you downloaded. You should have extracted them into a directory on your computer, and that's where you will need to put them permanently, so make sure you choose a proper location for that. The other thing you will need to do is install virt-manager, which is called virt-manager. I usually do that by typing in the apt command, but you can also use your package manager. Right now, however, I don't need to install it. I've already done so. But on most Linux distributions, you can just type sudo apt install virt-manager, enter, and then it will install that for you. So let's open up Virtual Machine Manager and get the studio running. So when you open the Virtual Machine Manager, you have nothing there. It's just empty. And the first thing you need to do is Preferences, and then select Enable XML Editing first before you continue. Create a new virtual machine. Make sure you select Import Existing Disk Image, because we are going to use something that we've already pre-installed. Then find and locate the Retro Reason Studio files. Now, as you can see, I've already done that here, but for the instruction, I will remove it and do it again. Just click on Add Pool, and then browse for the pool. And then the folder with the files that you extracted. I just give it a descriptive name, Retro Reason Studio, and then you do Finish. And from there you can select the storage volume, which is this one, the qemu-kvm image. And then you say Choose Volume, and then it knows where the virtual machine is. We're going to be installing virtual machine based on Windows 7. So that's how you know what to type over there, and click Forward. Here it doesn't really matter what you choose right now, because we're going to paste in the virtual machine settings from the XML file. And again, here I give it a proper name. Note that you're not allowed to use spaces here, so you just need to type it all in as one word. And we want to select Customize Configuration before install, so that we can add our own settings there. Then click Finish. Okay, here we can begin the installation, but before we do so, we want to edit the XML. And we're going to paste in our own configuration, which you can find in this file. I simply right-click on it, I open it with a mousepad, which is my editor, and then you want to start copying the contents of this file, starting from the line which says Title. Select all the text, Ctrl-C, copy. I throw this one out. Then you go to here, and under the UUID, you select all the XML data and you do Ctrl-V, pasting our own setting here. And if you've done it correctly, it looks a little bit like this. You click Apply, and suddenly you'll see everything changing on the left side. And then one thing remains for us to do, which is we have to make sure that the virtual machine manager knows where the disk is, and because we just pasted in our own XML, the location is not correct. So we go to SATA disk 1, and here I'm going to paste in the folder where I put mine, which is home user RS, and then I click on apply. Once you've done everything correctly and you've checked the path, you can check that over here by clicking on your file manager and then typing Control L. You can see the path, home user RRS in this case, and it should correspond with the path over here, home user RRS, and then here it has also the name of the disk behind it. Okay, one thing that could go wrong when you start up the virtual machine is that you get a blue screen and that the machine starts looping, boot looping as it were. And I found out that this is sometimes a problem that can occur if you have the wrong CPU configuration, especially on newer Linuxes. If you have the CPU configuration host pass through, then the virtual machine could hang up on that and cause a blue screen. So to solve that, simply take that checkbox out and then select in model the host model instead of the host pass-through, and then apply it. And then after that, it will turn on the checkbox again. But now you can see host model behind the text, copy host CPU configuration, and then it will actually start up. So if you have problems, try and change some things here and see if that works. So once that's all done, you click begin installation. Now in reality, we won't be installing anything because it's already done, because everything is already in the image. But just by clicking here, it will start the virtual machine. And there you go. So here is the virtual machine, and it's just started up. And we would just want to configure a few things before we continue. So as you can see right now, the screen is a little bit small, and if we go full screen, it will not look correct according to the display settings. So what we can do is, let's just go full screen first by going view full screen. And then you can see that everything looks a little bit blocky. So we want to correct this because my screen is a lot bigger than what this virtual machine is currently configured for. So you right click on the desktop and you go to screen resolution. And here you can choose what fits with your own monitor. So in this case, we will go to 1920 by 1080 and click apply. And there you go. Retro Reason Studio 32-bit plus running on your computer. Okay, the first thing you'll see is just a bunch of icons and a little file here called readme first. And I would advise you to open it and just read through this little file first to just get a little bit of a hang of what's going on in this virtual machine and a little bit of information about what's in here. For the rest, you'll find an icon to start Reason, the older Rebirth drum program, Recycle for making loops, and a few other helpful programs on here, among which a VST host to be able to host VSTs, 32-bit VSTs, which make interesting noises. But first we will open Reason and start playing around with that. Now when you start Reason, it being abandonware, you can find the license number right here and just type it and off you go. Reason starts up with the standard patch, which has this little drum loop in it. So if we click play, we can test if the sound is working. Everything seems to be just fine. Now there's two things I'd like to cover before we continue to show what Retro Reason Studio can do. And that is, first of all, we need to check out what the latency is on the audio. Because if you open the preferences of Reason and you look at output latency, it basically says 20 milliseconds. But when you actually play something, you will notice on Linux that the latency is a lot more. So if we want to get that down, it's advised to use an external sound card and plug that in. And when you do that, I will show you the overview of the USB devices. It can just be a USB card. It doesn't have to be an expensive one. If you plug it in, you can see among the USB devices for redirection that we should get an additional device. And then you just select the device that gives you that audio. In this case, the USB audio. I could choose that one. Then at that moment, the virtual machine will recognize it. So you have to click on the pass-through checkbox. The machine recognizes it. And from that point on, you can select your default audio device. And once you do that, it will always default to using that USB device that you plug in. It will automatically do that. So the handy thing about that is that the sound device is used directly by the virtual machine and the Windows subsystem in it, and doesn't have to go through the Linux sound system first. So that will make sure that you have a very small amount of latency, which is nice for when you want to play live or when you want to use a piano keyboard on Reason. So now the latency will actually be 20 milliseconds. Now, before I show you a demo song made in Reason 1, which really showcases what Reason can do, I want to go into how you can import and export files from and to the virtual machine. You might want to do this when you've finished a song, for example, or maybe you want to use samples and you don't want to just record everything. Maybe you want to get something from a CD or the internet. So you have to be able to move files in and out. And this is done using WinSCP. It's a little program that's included on the virtual machine image, which will enable you to connect to an external FTP or SFTP system. And that makes it possible for you to move your files in and out. I'm not going to go into the details of how to set up a SSH connection to a Linux box, for example, because there are many manuals online that will tell you how to do that. But I will show you a small example of my connection here, and that you can just move the files in and out. So here you can see my FTP connection. I've filled in the details, my local IP address, my username, my password, and then when I click login, I can just see the files on my computer outside of the virtual machine, in this case in my music folder. And on the left side, you can see my projects on the virtual machine. So this makes it very easy to move a song in and out. For example, my new beat, I just drag it and off you go. It's now moved outside of the virtual machine. And if we check that, you can see it. So I go to my folder, I go to music, and there you can see the exported file is sitting right there. So this works both ways, and it's a way for you to be able to move your files in and out. And now that we've had the basics, let's go to the demo.